my name is Wendy Reed and I teach high school math, and we're going to learn about classifying triangles today. This is really easy stuff, but we just want to refresh your memory. First type of triangle is called an acute triangle. And the reason it's called an acute triangle is because it has three acute angles. And the word acute means, an acute angle is an angle that is less than 90 degrees. So usually it looks something like this variation. As you can see, each angle is small or less than 90 degrees, therefore it is acute. So if all three angles are acute, it's called an acute triangle. Okay? We're doing by angles right now because we classify triangles two ways, by the angles and by the sides. So first we're doing the angles, and that's the first one. Let's do A. Okay. The second one is B, and that is called let's do right triangle second. A right triangle. And a right triangle has only one right angle, and a right angle is an angle that is 90 degrees. So it usually looks something like this. And usually you see a little box in it that determines, or that tells you it's a right angle. Sometimes you may see a 90 degrees, but mostly you'll see a little box, and that tells you it's a right angle. Okay? So when it has one right angle, it makes it a right triangle. Okay? And then our third one is an obtuse triangle. And an obtuse triangle has one obtuse angle. And an obtuse angle is an angle between 90 and 180 degrees. So an obtuse triangle usually looks something like this. As you can see, it has two smaller angles, two acute angles, but one obtuse angle, an angle greater than 90 but less than 180 degrees. And then our last one for the angles is called, it's kind of a long word, a little bit hard to say, but it's equiangular triangle. If you think of the word equiangular, equal means equal, okay? And then angular means angle, so it's equal angles. So all three angles in an equiangular triangle are congruent, they're the same. So an equiangular triangle often looks like this, showing that all three angles are congruent. Now, specifically in an equiangular triangle, since they're congruent and all three angles have to add up to be 180, 180 divided by 3 is 60. So all three angles in an equiangular triangle are going to be 60 degrees. So that's by angles, and then we're going to talk about the sides. There's not as many for the sides, there's only 3. So our first one for the sides is called an equilateral triangle. We'll start there. Now, just like equiangular, those words have meaning. Okay? Equal obviously means equal. Lateral means line. So basically it means equal lines. So all three sides are congruent. So an equilateral triangle often looks like this, denoting that all three sides are congruent or the same measure. Sometimes you may see like the actual measurements on here all being the same. Okay? That just means all three sides are congruent. Now, we just had equiangular triangle up here. Now, interestingly enough, if a triangle is equilateral, it's also going to be equiangular. So if you have an equilateral triangle, it's also going to be equiangular. And it works the other way around. If it's equiangular, it's also going to be equilateral. So those kind of go together. So the equals go together. If it's equilateral, it's equiangular, and if it's equiangular, it's equilateral. Our second one is an isosceles triangle. Okay, kind of hard word to spell, but good one. Isosceles triangle has only two congruent segments. So often an isosceles triangle will look like this, two congruent segments. Okay. And then our last one for that is called a scalene triangle. As you can imagine, if equilateral has all three congruent sides and isosceles has only two congruent sides, scalene you might think has only one congruent side. Well, in a sense that's true, but basically it means it has no congruent sides. So our last one is scalene triangle, and it has no congruent sides. Basically, there's no segments or anything as far as, well, there are segments, but there's no congruence going on here. So you could have like 5 meters, 6 meters, and 8 meters. So there's no congruent sides at all. And when you classify triangles, you can classify them both ways. So one triangle doesn't have to be just isosceles or just a right triangle. It can be both. Let me give you an example. If you look at this triangle, if you classify by angles, it's obviously right because it has one right angle. But it also has two congruent sides, so it's also isosceles. So it's really a right isosceles triangle. So when you classify triangles, you're actually classifying it both ways. So that's how we classify triangles.